Your cat watched you pet the dog. You did not think anything of it, but your cat did. The moment your hand touched that other animal, something shifted. Your cat turned away, walked out of the room, and when you tried to call it back, it sat there with its tail low, back turned, completely ignoring you. You probably laughed it off. Cats are moody, independent, a little dramatic. That is what everyone says. But that is not what happened. What you witnessed in that moment was not attitude, not a random mood swing, not just being a cat. It was a jealousy response. And it follows a very specific pattern that most owners never recognize because they spend years calling it something else entirely. Cats feel jealousy. Real, measurable jealousy. The kind that changes how they move through the house, which rooms they choose to avoid, how close they position themselves to you, and how they decide to treat you for the rest of the day. And here is what makes it difficult to catch. The trigger is almost never a stranger, not an aggressive animal, not a dramatic change in the home. The trigger is you doing something completely ordinary, something you do every single day without giving it a second thought. Pay attention to this. There are 3 specific situations that trigger jealousy in cats more than anything else, and at least one of them is almost guaranteed to be something you did this week, possibly this morning, without realizing your cat was registering every second of it. Most owners only see the aftermath, the cold shoulder, the furniture scratched in a new place, the sudden desperate need to sit directly on your chest the moment you finally sit down, the stare from across the room that holds just a little too long. And they call it moodiness, spite, drama, or just typical, unpredictable cat behavior. But every one of those reactions has a source, a specific trigger, a moment in your day that your cat experienced completely differently than you did. Once you understand what is actually driving it, you will never misread it again. And what comes next will completely change the way you look at your cat. Here is what is actually happening inside your cat when jealousy kicks in. Cats are attachment animals. That sounds obvious, but most people still do not fully believe it because cats spent decades being sold to us as solitary, self-sufficient creatures that simply tolerate humans. That image is wrong. Research from animal behavior labs confirms that cats form selective, deep bonds with specific people, not with everyone in the house, not with whoever feeds them, with a chosen person. And that bond creates something your cat monitors constantly, even when it looks like it is doing nothing. Your cat tracks your attention the way a co-pilot tracks altitude, quietly, continuously, in the background of everything else it is doing. When that attention shifts toward another animal, toward a phone, toward a guest who just walked in, your cat does not simply notice. It registers a change in resource availability. That resource is you. Your presence, your touch, your smell, your voice directed at it specifically. Have you noticed how your cat positions itself in the room when you were talking to someone else for a long time? That is not coincidence. That is monitoring. Now add a second animal into that environment. A dog that runs to greet you at the door. Another cat that jumps on your lap, even a friend's pet that visited for one afternoon. The moment your hands go to that animal and your cat sees it happen, the registration is immediate. The bond it has built with you is being shared with something else, and its nervous system responds. The behavioral signs are specific. It may walk away slowly, not fast, not dramatically, just a calculated exit. It may position itself just out of reach when you try to call it back. It may groom itself excessively right in front of you, which is a displacement behavior, the feline equivalent of refusing to make eye contact during an argument. These are not random reactions. They follow a sequence, and the sequence starts much earlier than the moment you think it does, because the trigger is not always what your cat sees you do. Sometimes it is what your cat smells when you come home, and that detail changes everything. You already know about the moment your cat watched you pet another animal. You already understand the monitoring, the slow exit, the calculated distance, but there is a trigger that happens before you even sit down, before you touch anything, before you say a word to your cat. It happens the second you walk through the door. Your cat does not greet you with its eyes first. It greets you with its nose, and your scent when you come home carries an entire story, one your cat reads in seconds, completely involuntarily, with no filter and no patience. If you spent time with another animal, that information is on your hands. Your jacket, your shoes, your skin. Your cat does not need to have seen anything. The evidence came home with you. This is not metaphor. Cats have roughly 200 million scent receptors. Humans have about 5 million. What you experience as a faint smell of a friend's dog is to your cat a loud and detailed signal that another animal was physically close to you, close enough to leave a trace. And the response that follows is not aggression, it is not fear. It is something more specific, a recalibration. Your cat is processing a shift in its social environment, and it is deciding in real time how to respond to you. Sometimes it walks away. Sometimes it rubs its face aggressively against your leg, not as affection, but as scent marking. It is not welcoming you home. That distinction matters more than most owners realize. Here is what I want you to do right now. Write in the comments, does your cat sniff you intensely when you come home, especially if you were around other animals? Tell me exactly what it does next. Because that sequence, the sniff and what follows, reveals exactly where your cat places you in its world. The way your cat responds in those first minutes after you walk in is one of the most honest things it will ever show you. And what it reveals in the final part of this video is something most owners spend years completely misreading. Now you know the 3 triggers: the other animal receiving your touch, the attention your cat watched you give to something else, the scent that came home on your skin before you said a word. But knowing the triggers is only half of it. The other half is what you do with that information starting today. The first thing to understand is this: you cannot eliminate jealousy in a cat. It is not a flaw to fix. It is a signal to read, and what it is telling you every single time is that your cat has a bond with you strong enough to protect. A cat that feels nothing does not get jealous. A cat that is truly indifferent does not reposition itself in the room, does not mark your jacket, does not sit with its back to you after you spend 20 minutes with a dog. Jealousy in a cat is evidence of attachment. It means you matter to your cat in a way that is specific and irreplaceable. What you can do is respond to it correctly. When you come home after being around other animals, take 30 seconds before anything else, wash your hands, let your cat approach you, and sniff on its own terms. Do not force the greeting. Give it the space to process, and then reclaim you at its own pace. That sequence, the sniff, the rub, the slow return to normal, is your cat resolving the moment. Let it finish. When you give attention to another animal in front of your cat, follow it with direct, unhurried attention to your cat. Not immediately, not mechanically, but genuinely. Your cat is not keeping score the way you might think. It is not waiting for an apology. It is waiting for confirmation that the bond is still there. That confirmation does not need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. A few minutes of focused presence, your voice, your hands, your attention directed entirely at your cat is enough to close the loop that jealousy opened. Your cat is not being difficult. It is being honest, and now you have the tools to answer it. Write in the comments, what does your cat do when it feels ignored or displaced? Describe the exact behavior. I want to know how your cat shows it. And if you want to keep understanding what your cat is actually trying to tell you every single day, subscribe. The next video will show you something your cat does in silence that most owners never notice. And it is one of the most important things it will ever communicate to you.